Chongqing, there is a Vinekey project also. And here we have a network with a similar kit of parts, but at a much higher density, in an in-town location next to a future light rail station with shopping along a public street. Here you can see how the new site is related to the light rail station and how relatively close it is to the central business district. Here you see the plan with the tall buildings, and keeping with the urban situation of the development, it's mid-rise buildings. There are no individual houses or row houses in this development. Again, the principle prevails of strong pedestrian streets and then more intimately scaled byways connecting them, forming a network like in a traditional city, allowing people to move in different directions and always being able to orient themselves to where they are. Another network of parks and also an important square at the principal gateway past the clubhouse and leading from the development to the shopping at Shanghai Road. So there is a hierarchy of casual, informal spaces and formal spaces. Though the community is gated as it is in Heart of Lake, the retail street is open to the passenger pedestrians as they move from the light rail station through to the larger neighborhood. Again, a variety of building heights is orchestrated through the community. There are some views here are some views of how the project, which is now under construction, will look in the future. It will look like a city for people, not for cars. The main park running down the center of the development will be its principal focus. In this view, you begin to see the relationship of the clubhouse, which has already becoming an important civic focus for the development, and the main square in front of it, and the first of the apartments which are designed deliberately to have varied facades to express different unit types and are orchestrated in the composition so as to have low rise and middle rise elements within one building. Not just a tower that rises uninterrupted for unlimited height from ground to sky, but something that is composed to create different scales in a city, and something that has visual detail to engage the eye of the people who see it from the outside as they move about town. The third project I'd like to draw your attention to is Metropolis 79 in Hangzhou, also a Vanke development. Here our project is part of a large-scale master plan of new blocks which I commend for their relation to traditional urban planning. It's a master plan of streets and cross streets, opening to the river, opening also to the existing town. It's not a giant super block with random towers in it, which is so typical of so much development in both New York, our city, my city, and Shanghai, yours. Our project consists of 4 towers and a clubhouse, and then also a row of shops in low buildings facing the principal boulevard. Low buildings facing the principal boulevard. Here is our scheme as it evolved, beginning with the idea of a strongly defined central courtyard shared by all the residents. We provided for circulation and with colonnades around the edge of the courtyard. Then wrapped the perimeter with retail so that the buildings have an intimate scale within, but participate within the larger community at large at their edges. They are good, we hope, we believe they will be good citizens of the large neighborhood. There are various clubhouse and recreational amenities as part of the development which will be accessible to the residents. We mixed up the uses and and that is very, very important. It is very important wherever possible to mix uses so that these places, these new neighborhoods within the city become 24/7 active zones and are not deserted at night or dead in the daytime, either way. We activated the street front that faced the larger community, and then the residential towers themselves, which are linked by low-rise buildings to form strong street edges. The towers are sculpted with terraced apartments at the top to contribute an interesting silhouette. So from bottom to top, your eye is constantly engaged when you look at these towers. Here is the retail, a block with some offices in it that is now complete and being occupied. I like to think that it makes a good citizen of the street. So finally, here in Shanghai, right where we are now meeting, is the new project facing Yangtze River, which is a wonderful opportunity for our work to be part of a renewed waterfront and to help create a community of residential buildings along with clubhouses and retail that at once contribute to the main street but also enjoy a strong presence along the river. But before presenting our Emerald Riverside project, a word or two about New York's own waterfront and its plans for development seems appropriate. Some of you may have been here this morning, so I may be repeating a little bit of what I said, but I think it's worth saying in the context of this presentation. This is a map of the 5 boroughs of the city of New York. The island of Manhattan is most familiar to you. New York has 230 miles of waterfront, mostly neglected as shipping and other industrial uses have moved outside the city to the port in New Jersey, where containerized shipping can take place. The New York City has developed a master plan for the waterfront, which is intended to be realized by the year 2010, and it is going forward very, very actively, aggressively at this point. It began a long time ago with Battery Park City in the late 1970s, when the island of Manhattan was actually expanded outward into Hudson River to create a new development, a mixed-use development of apartments, office buildings, parks, schools of all different categories, from kindergartens to a citywide high school, as well as civic buildings, museums, theaters, hotels, a full panoply of what a city is about. Here are some views, and you can see in the composition of the buildings in Battery Park City that they are varied, but that they seem united with the larger city behind them. One of the great triumphs of this plan was the creation of a waterfront pedestrian park and bikeway all along the river, the Hudson River. Here you see a view of it. It's intensely used, and you can see also how it has stimulated the development of new residential construction facing this bikeway, but also the rehabilitation of old abandoned warehouse buildings which had been there when this was a pier area for new uses, mostly for residential. Many of the buildings have been converted to residential uses, but some are occupied by companies as famous and large as catering to the new creative class like Google, which has its offices in this neighborhood. Also in an old, abandoned, elevated trainway has been torn down, has been not torn down, but saved. It's called the High Line. Many of you may know it some of you may have visited it. Here is the High Line.